Hey everybody, it's Matt the Dice Chucker from the Literary Gamers, and I'm coming to you today with the book review for this week, which is Terry Goodkind's Soul of the Fire. There's the camera. I'm going to constantly do that throughout all of these series. So this is the fifth book in his Sword of Truth series. No, excuse me. The previous one was Temple of the Winds, and this is a part of the Imperial Order arc. Or the Emperor Jigong arc. I can't remember exactly what it is. So, just a kind of a reminder, this book melds completely, of course it does, with the last book, almost without a step. So, in the last book, Richard and Kaelin have made their way to the Mud People's village. This is the end. And, excuse me, and they get married. But Kaelin had invoked the names of the chimes in order to save Richard. And his quest to the underworld and all that. And the chimes are basically, they can get rid of magic in the world, and if that happens, then it's pretty much a bad thing. But they are finally married. She takes on the title of Lady Rahl. But while they're with the Mud People, there's some deaths that occur. Now, the beginning of this book is interesting in the fact that, and it kept my attention because of, how do I say this? It's a demonic chicken, and it's going around, and they've got to deal with this demonic chicken, and this is a wacky little thing that I loved. So Zed is trying to tell them that everything is okay with the chimes, but really Zed's kind of lying to them. And so also the same thing too, Shota had warned them that they shouldn't have a child because they would bear a male confessor, which is a big no. And she gave them a necklace that would stop them from having a child. But without magic in the world, the necklace is obsolete. So I'm not going to give you the whole plot because then there's no point in reading it. But eventually they head out to this place called Andereth. Andereth is kind of a small nation in the Midlands, and they are being appealed to by the Imperial Order to side with them. And Richard is trying to appeal to them that this isn't a good idea. Now, this is the first time that we see this type of behavior rear its head. And what I mean by that is there are long swaths of passages, starting with this book, not starting, he's done this in the past, but it's very noticeable in this book, and then continuing with pretty much almost every book in the series until it's done, about a few things. Richard is the only way. He's the only way everyone's going to be safe. He knows how to fix everything. This was a problem that I had with Temple of the Winds and partially with Blood of the Fold. But at the same time, too, you kind of get this feeling of Goodkind's severe hatred for communism and socialism. And so that comes out a lot in this book. Comes out a lot. To the point where I think a lot of people stop, So, I mean, I've talked to people who have read the series, and some say they made it all the way through, and, they get it. Yes, communism, bad. But they still enjoyed the series, while some basically said, couldn't get through it, man. It was one of those things where I couldn't just deal with the political nature anymore. So, the people of Andereth are being given the choice after listening to Richard's long diatribes, and the Imperial Order is making its case. Now, the Imperial Order is using machinations. Richard's trying to play a clean game. And Kaelin is pregnant because the chimes have been activated and all that with magic being gone. So Kaelin gets beat up by I think if I remember correctly, people in the town and the Imperial Order under the influence of the Imperial Order, and she loses the baby, but she's also almost unrecognizable, and so it's, Richard is starting to be, he's getting angrier and angrier with this, and he knows that Andereth is not much there's not much going on in this nation as far as him being able to convince them. And at the same time, too, what you have is, what was I going to say? I really but I despise every single character from Anderith that's introduced in this story because they're written that way. And I think that was very well done, was that I never felt anything for any of these characters. I enjoyed the antagonism of them, but I never really was a fan of any of those characters. And that's good. You want some of that in some of your writing because you can't always be just rooting and rooting. So I do like that. After a while, Richard does realizes the chimes are loose, and he sends Kara to Eidendril because that's where the sword is at the time. And I can't remember why the sword is gone, but I remember that she had to go get the sword. It's possible. Oh no, he took the Sliff, and the Sliff can't take the sword. That's right. And they're continuing to work on the Anderith joining the Daharan Empire. They eventually have the vote that they want to side with the Imperial Order. After everything they've been through, and of course they do put the chimes back in place, magic is restored and all that. And like I said, I'm not going to give you too much because if you want to read it, then you kind of have that. But the interesting thing that happens in this book is, I'll talk about Wizard's Fifth Rule. Richard decides that at the end of this, everything with Anderith, that he decides that he's just going to leave. They're going to go back to the Westlands and to Heartland, where Kaelin can heal and she can be away because she's severely wounded, and we'll talk a lot more about that with Faith of the Fallen because that's the healing process and all that. But she really was almost killed at that point, and it's going to take her a very long time to heal. So they're going back to the Westland, and it pretty much boils down to Richard saying, I can't help these people until they realize that I need to help them. Now, yeah, sure, it's you don't realize what you got until it's gone. But at the same time, we're dealing with a group of people who have chosen to be submissive to the Imperial Order, which they haven't seen as being evil. But as soon as they do, they're going to realize the danger in that alliance. So for him, it really is a loss. But he feels later on that perhaps they'll turn around and realize what they need. Wizard's fifth rule is mind what people do, not what they say, for deeds will betray a lie. And, people will, it's explained later as they're going to lie to you for what they truly mean to do. And actions speak louder than words. That's basically it. So that's the basic idea of Soul of the Fire. We have a demonic chicken. The chimes are loose, and they're going to destroy magic. And we have this nation that is kind of in contention with the Imperial Order and the Daharan Empire. I call it the Midlands. It's really the Daharan Empire because if you remember, Richard absorbed the Midlands into Dahara in order to keep everyone safe. Once again, there's that thing: keep everyone safe. Now, what did I like about the book? Because years ago, when I first read it, I was like, it was fine. And I look back on it now, and it's actually interesting. This is one of the few times, and I wish he did it more, that Goodkind delved into politicking. And I really think that it worked for him. It's not too complicated. It's also, that could work against it. There might be some people out there who prefer a political fantasy thriller. But to get this group of people who are finally fighting hard against Richard was interesting because it's always like, oh, here's my idea, and everyone just goes along with it. And here we finally have a group of people who push back against him, and I liked that. And then the whole point of the book of just kind of leaving them behind, make sure they realize that what's going to happen to them isn't good, but they need to realize that. I actually really like that in this story. So, as far as that goes, it's solid. I would probably give this one 4 stars now. I think I gave it was either 4 or 3.5 last time I reviewed these. but it actually made me think. And that's what you want a book to do, right? You don't want to just read a book for enjoyment, put it aside. You want to be able to have some sort of feelings from what you're reading. It's the books that stick with us. And I remember this book really sticking with me because of all the politicking that was going on and the issues that were happening in this nation. And while there is other stuff that goes on in this book, that is what sticks out to me in this novel, is what's happening with the other nations. Not with this nation trying to determine if it wants to be part of the Imperial Order or if it wants to be part of the D'Haran Empire. That to me is interesting. The constant roadblocks Richard faces, that to me is interesting in this book. Because while he faces roadblocks in other ones, as I've said, it's, look at me, I'm able to get past this. I'm the only one with the answers. And he just is not getting that this time. So I like that. As far as the rest of the book goes, it's, as I said, you've got the chimes being put away. Zed is trying to figure out how to do that. Richard, of course, is the one that eventually puts the chimes back in place. So I really think this is probably one of my more favorite books in the series. And it leads into actually what is some of the most compelling portions of the series, which is going to be Faith of the Fallen. Spoiler alert for next week, that is my favorite book in the series. I think it's the height of what kind of was coming. And I say this about another series too. If the book series ended at Faith of the Fallen, I think I would have been satisfied, and of course you would have had to add another ending there, because as you know, Goodkind stretched the story out to 11 books. So Faith of the Fallen is directly tied in. Now a lot of the Sword of Truth books just kind of go, there's some time in between of it, but the first chapter of every book is basically the next chapter of the last book. Some people like that, some people don't. When I was planning out the story for my book, I decided that I was going to have years between them. So, for example, my first book and my second book, there's a year in between of them. And then my second book and my third book, there's 3 years in between that. And that was important basically for growth of characters and kind of flashbacks. I do love writing flashbacks. For me, that was the format I chose. For other people, they like writing, a chapter. Not a chapter. They like writing a book, and then the next book is immediately picking up on the next one. So that's this one here, and that will be the next one as well. Have you read Soul of Fire? What did you think of it? Have you read the Sword of Truth series? How far did you get? Some people, when I talk to them about it, say that they read the 11 books of Sword of Truth. And I tell them, did you read, 12 through 15? And they said, no, we've not heard good things. Did you read the prequel? No. Did you read the Nikki books? No. But did you read the Children of D'Haran? No. So some people, they just don't want to read past book 11. And that's fine. Book 11 is a very satisfying ending. But how far did you get? Now that Terry has passed, I did wonder if we were going to find another series in his notes after his passing, but I think with some authority I can officially say the series is done. So how far did you get? Do you not like the series? Tell me why. This was my first fantasy series, so for me it does have some nostalgia, so keep that in mind as you're watching these videos. Otherwise, we'll see you next Monday for Faith of the Fallen. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. We're trying to get to 600 subscribers by the end of March, and hopefully 750 by the end of May. It helps us out immensely if you subscribe and if you have notifications on. We took a few weeks off of constant uploading, but we're trying to get back in the groove. We've got 2 or 3 videos heading up tomorrow as well. Those will be some solo games. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.